9 people have been killed, hundreds of others hurt. Some drivers were pulled from their cars and their trucks and they were beaten up. Stores were torched and looted.
Mayor Tom Bradley imposed a curfew at dusk, and National Guard troops and the California Highway Patrol were put on alert. There have been demonstrations in Los Angeles and other cities, including Atlanta. On News Sport 5, we'll have a reaction from President Bush, and we'll have live reaction from Mayor Dinkins and Police Commissioner Brown. Also, we'll go to the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, where bells tolled in solidarity with the people of Los Angeles. And we're going to talk to some New York City school kids, and we'll look at just who the jurors were that reached the verdict.
And as we look at these scenes, we realize the people have been rioting now for, almost 24 hours since the verdict came in Los Angeles. We saw that verdict live on our air at 6 o'clock last night, and the trouble began shortly thereafter. Fires were set, hundreds of them, stores looted, and what began as an instant, almost convulsive reaction to outrage over the fact that those not guilty verdicts were returned in the trial in Simi Valley against the 4 white police officers became, for many in Los Angeles, it seems, a target of opportunity, a chance to loot and to riot and to rob.
Several things are happening. They've closed 2 runways at the airport there, which is causing...
Because of the smoke from these fires, yes. Indeed. So there is about a 2-hour backup at LAX right now. If you have anybody flying in there this evening, there are delays at LAX because of smoke from the fires. When the firefighters initially tried to get in to fight these fires, they too were met with trouble, and the police had to move in to protect them. And there was also some concern about the lack of police presence initially in the area.
We'll talk to Police Commissioner Brown about that.
Across South Central Los Angeles, a rampage of looting is spreading in this largely black and Hispanic area. People are removing whatever they can from grocery stores, dry cleaners, check cashing establishments, any location they can manage to break into. It's complete pandemonium, at this point uncontrolled by police. On the street, mixed but powerful emotions.
Tonight, I can predict, it's going to be pretty worse than tonight. That's all I can say. I can't predict what's going to happen, but it's going to be worse.
And dozens of fires are burning across South Central. Arsonists still at work torching fresh blazes. The smoke hanging over the city has disrupted air traffic in and out of LAX International Airport. Flights very much delayed. Authorities describe police and fire departments as overwhelmed. But outgoing LAPD Chief Daryl Gates says his force will remain controlled. Diana Karicki, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And for more on the story, Steve Hamilton is standing by right now in Washington. Steve?
Chuck, on this one, George Bush is really on the spot. He is today sending in the feds, but he won't discuss the verdict. And he's trying hard to steer clear of taking sides in this emotional issue, especially in California, where he wants to do very well in the presidential primary there in just 32 days. The president was walking a tightrope. He condemned the riot and denounced an accelerated federal investigation of the Rodney King case.
We are concerned about any question of excessive police violence, and we are equally concerned about excessive public violence. The murder and destruction in the streets of Los Angeles last night and today must be stopped. Lootings, beatings, and random violence against innocent victims must be condemned.
Bush told L.A. Mayor Tom Bradley and California Governor Pete Wilson that the Justice Department will now press the King case. Attorney General William Barr said even though the LAPD officers were acquitted in state court, he sent a team to L.A. to investigate federal charges against the 4.
What we are looking at is whether there was intentional infliction of excessive force, which may constitute a violation of the civil rights laws. And so we are not bound by any of the state proceedings in that inquiry.
Jesse Jackson and L.A. Congresswoman Maxine Waters had pressed the civil rights probe.
We want prosecution. We think it is the only credible and reasonable thing to do in order to send a message to people that there can be justice in this country.
But Waters and Jackson were frustrated. They'd tried and failed to see the president to urge a crisis meeting of urban leaders and more federal cash for the cities.
There is a real danger that this crisis in L.A. will spread across the country. We hope it will not. But all of the ingredients are there. In every instance, a combination of police brutality and humiliation, compounding alienation and unemployment, sparks, and explosions.
Bill Clinton, too, was in Washington criticizing the president.
I don't think he would willfully do anything wrong in this case. I think the question is the absence of action, the absence of trying to bring the American people together.
But Bush took a legalistic approach and wouldn't share his view of the acquittals.
I want everyone to know that the federal government will continue to pursue its legal responsibilities in this case. Thank you very much.
Are you
Sir, do you disagree with the verdict? Do you disagree with the verdict?
No use yelling any questions at the president today. He doesn't want to say anything that could cause more problems in Los Angeles or add to his political burden in this election year. One final note, though. The Justice Department says since 1988 that it has prosecuted more than 120 police brutality cases and has won 75% of them. Reporting live from the White House, I'm Steve Handelsman. Back to you.
Steve, predictably, opponents of President Bush are criticizing his leadership in this case.
He's being careful, Chuck. He said and did the minimal amount today so he could get the federal bureaucracy involved in prosecutions, if that's what it comes to, and not get involved in the politics of this rioting and this verdict out in L.A.
Steve,
they're pulling the driver out of the van, and they're kicking the driver and beating the driver. The driver's only mistake was entering this area. He's been kicked in the head. He's laying in the street. Okay, this is it. Terrible, terrible pictures. This is what all this guy did was enter this area. That's his only crime. Hit the siren, Doug. Yes. Okay, this guy is laying in the street. Hit the siren, Doug. He is bleeding, unconscious in the street. Ross? Oh, it's tragic. The man is unconscious in the street. People are still coming up and throwing things at this poor individual. Oh, the van has been looted. There's nothing left.
Vandalizing property, but in the midst of the protest, a call for calm.
Just chill! Yo, man, just chill!
By daybreak, there had been 40 arrests, only a few minor injuries. Seattle's mayor took to the airwaves to ease fears in his city.
The city is safe and under control. The buses are running, and everyone can come to work.
In Eugene, Oregon, protesters vented their anger on the federal building, breaking windows and doors. It began as a peaceful rally of about 200 people organized by the Black Student Union at the University of Oregon. And there was also unrest in Las Vegas. Rioters set more than 50 fires that burned through the night. Mobs roamed the streets, looting stores. One cop was shot and 4 police cars were hit by gunfire. A curfew has been set and the Nevada National Guard has been ordered into the city.
By getting attention and showing their frustration totally the wrong way. You know, what's wrong with doing a protest, marching up the street or something?
In Tampa, cars were burned and 2 teenagers were arrested after shots were fired at police.
No justice, no peace.
But the protests were peaceful in Trenton this morning as students from Trenton State College demonstrated against the verdict, and it was quiet in Philadelphia this afternoon, where 250 people marched to the police administration building. No disturbances were reported.
Stop police brutality!
All over the map, also protests reported today.
The university came together to voice their outrage over the verdict in the Rodney King case. Organizers also asked students to sign petitions demanding the U.S. government step up investigation of civil rights violations in that case. And students from Manhattan and Brooklyn walked out of high school today to march to Lower Manhattan. U.S. Marshals greeted them at the federal courthouse where they held a peaceful rally. They were one of several groups protesting in that area today, and one woman pleaded with young people to keep their heads.
I want you to be careful. I don't want you to engage in any argument with anybody here representing the Communist Party. I don't want you to engage because that was happening on the bridge. I do not want you in it. Your struggle is your mama's struggle. I am your mama. I want
A call for calm and peace. And also at this hour, there is also a rally going on in Times Square where a couple of hundred people have gathered there. But we want to stress that by all indications, this is a peaceful protest as well. No problems have been reported.
At City Hall earlier today. Right now, William Kunstler, the activist attorney, is addressing them. They're angry and outraged at the Rodney King verdict. From their perspective, only the latest injustice visited on African Americans by the U.S. Judicial system. It's a fairly normal-sized demonstration by New York standards here, but with the pictures of Los Angeles still fresh in everyone's minds, there's some apprehension. They're angry, but seemingly intent on nonviolence. Not that the people in this area aren't worried, though. Take a look at this. Merchants in the heart of town developed the jitters early today. This, the type of precaution that usually precedes the annual New Year's celebration, when crowd control is always dicey. Now, with visions of L.A. still fresh in their minds, many Times Square store owners decided to clear out in advance of this afternoon's scheduled demonstration to protest the Rodney King verdict. But many remain hopeful that New York will stay cool.
Hopefully it doesn't come here. I think New Yorkers are smarter than that.
In the magazine stores here, you can buy copies of the L.A. papers and read all about the West Coast riot. They decided to wait the afternoon out in this stand, but stay alert for possible trouble.
We've been informed by our owner that we are to pull down the gates, you know, if it does get violent or if it does get out of control.
This afternoon, there were two groups of demonstrators that came through Times Square. The first group numbering about 50, mostly high school kids from the Upper West Side. And then a more diverse group, a little larger, a little older, everyone angry.
I am outraged. White America does not approve of that verdict. That verdict was an outrage to everybody in America. I think we're showing that we're fed up. We're just tired of this injustice.
I'm here for the efforts of peace, a positive peace.
There's a live picture of the demonstration in progress now as William Kunstler talking to the people here. Some of the more political statements don't get a lot of reaction from the crowd, but when they talk about Rodney King and when they talk about that videotape, they do get a good reaction here. That's what brought a lot of these people out, the outrage over that one incident that seems to symbolize a lot of things that people think is wrong with the American justice system and racism in America.